Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
Feelings of mental or physical pain. Psychological suffering. Misery resulting from affliction. Very unhappy, full of misery. A message of hope for suffering humanity. A state of acute pain. Troubled by pain or loss. Suffering refugees. The act of damaging something or someone. Feel physical pain. Were you hurting after the accident? Cause emotional anguish or make miserable. A damage or loss. Feelings of mental or physical pain. Any physical damage to the body caused by violence or accident or fracture, etc. Feel pain or be in pain. Hurt the feelings of. She hurt me when she did not include me among her guests. Psychological suffering. Damaged. Used of inanimate objects or their value. Suffering from physical injury, especially that suffered in battle. Ambulances for the hurt men and women. Be the source of pain. Cause damage or affect negatively. Our business was hurt by the new competition. Give trouble or pain to. This exercise will hurt your back. Psychological suffering. The death of his wife caused him great distress. The seizure and holding of property as security for payment of a debt or satisfaction of a claim. Originally, distress was a landlord's remedy against a tenant for unpaid rents or property damage, but now the landlord is given a landlord's lien. Bring into difficulties or distress, especially financial hardship. A state of adversity, danger or affliction or need. A ship in distress. Cause mental pain to. The news of her child's illness distressed the mother. Extreme physical pain. The patient appeared to be in distress. Misery resulting from affliction. Intense mournfulness. Of very poor quality or condition. Contemptibly small in amount. The company donated a miserable $100 for flood relief. Characterized by physical misery. A wet, miserable weekend. Deserving or inciting pity. Miserable victims of war. Of the most contemptible kind. His miserable treatment of his family. Very unhappy, full of misery. He felt depressed and miserable. Of very poor quality or condition. Characterized by physical misery. Spent a wretched night on the floor. Morally reprehensible. Deserving or inciting pity. A wretched life. Very unhappy, full of misery. Wretched prisoners huddled in stinking cages. Intense feelings of suffering, acute mental or physical pain. An agony of doubt. A state of acute pain. The infliction of extremely painful punishment or suffering. A state of acute pain. Generalized feeling of distress. Marked by or producing unhappiness. Unhappy caravans, straggling afoot through swamps and canebrakes. causing discomfort. The unhappy truth. Experiencing or marked by or causing sadness or sorrow or discontent. Unhappy over her departure. Characterized by unrest or disorder or insubordination. These troubled areas. Characterized by or indicative of distress or affliction or danger or need. Troubled areas. Cause emotional anguish or make miserable. It pains me to see my children not being taught well in school. A symptom of some physical hurt or disorder. The patient developed severe pain and distension. Cause bodily suffering to and make sick or indisposed. Emotional distress. A fundamental feeling that people try to avoid. The pain of loneliness. A somatic sensation of acute discomfort. As the intensity increased, the sensation changed from tickle to pain. Something or someone that causes trouble. A source of unhappiness. A bothersome, annoying person. That kid is a terrible pain. The quality of being painful. She feared the painfulness of childbirth. Emotional distress. A fundamental feeling that people try to avoid. A state of ill-being due to affliction or misfortune. The misery and wretchedness of those slums is intolerable. The character of being uncomfortable and unpleasant. The wretchedness for which these prisons became known. The quality of being poor and inferior and sorry. He has compiled a record second to none in its wretchedness. A state of ill-being due to affliction or misfortune. A state of ill-being due to affliction or misfortune. The misery and wretchedness of those slums is intolerable. A feeling of intense unhappiness. She was exhausted by her misery and grief. A symptom of some physical hurt or disorder. The state of being tense and feeling pain. An uncomfortable feeling of mental painfulness or distress. Treat cruelly. The children tormented the stuttering teacher. Subject to torture. The sinners will be tormented in hell, according to the Bible. Extreme mental distress. The act of harassing someone. Torment emotionally or mentally. Unbearable physical pain. A severe affliction. A feeling of intense annoyance caused by being tormented. So great was his harassment that he wanted to destroy his tormentors. Intense feelings of suffering. Acute mental or physical pain. The torments of the damned. An uncomfortable feeling of mental painfulness or distress. A pain that is felt, as when the area is touched. Violent pangs of suffering. Death throes. Subject to torture. The deliberate, systematic, or wanton infliction of physical or mental suffering by one or more persons in an attempt to force another person to yield information or to make a confession or for any other reason. Extreme mental distress. Torment emotionally or mentally. The act of distorting something so it seems to mean something it was not intended to mean. Unbearable physical pain. Intense feelings of suffering. Acute mental or physical pain. Unfriendly behavior that causes anger or resentment. A sudden outburst of anger. An uncomfortable feeling of mental painfulness or distress. The neural or electrical arousal of an organ or muscle or gland. The psychological state of being irritated or annoyed. The act of troubling or annoying someone. Pathology, abnormal sensitivity to stimulation. Any food-produced irritation of the stomach. Self-imposed distress. Cause emotional anguish or make miserable. Extreme mental distress. Extreme distress of body or mind. Suffer great pains or distress. Self-imposed distress. Yiddish, trouble and suffering. A casualty to military personnel resulting from combat. An injury to living tissue, especially an injury involving a cut or break in the skin. Hurt the feelings of. The act of inflicting a wound. Cause injuries or bodily harm to. A figurative injury, to your feelings or pride. He feared that mentioning it might reopen the wound. Put in a coil. Hard or painful trouble or struggle. A country in the throes of economic collapse. Severe spasm of pain. The throes of dying. The suffering of Jesus at the crucifixion. Any object of warm affection or devotion. He has a passion for cockfighting. A strong feeling or emotion. Something that is desired intensely. The suffering of Jesus at the crucifixion. The trait of being intensely emotional. An irrational but irresistible motive for a belief or action. A feeling of strong sexual desire.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.